Welcome to the Every Gym Podcast. I'm Andy Brady, and my partner on the dance floor today is our very own pastor, Dr. Jim Thomas. How are you, sir?
Hi, Andy Brady. I'm feeling very awkward right now.
That's good.
With that introduction.
It's totally acceptable. Today's episode is navigating the in-between. On today's episode, Dr. Thomas and I are discussing following Jesus faithfully during seasons of transition. Dr. Thomas, your household has done this dance twice in this calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all in January, I believe,
Yes.
re-nested.
Yes.
One of your daughters, after graduating college, temporarily moved back in with y'all. It was known that it would be temporary.
Yes.
And then y'all are now empty nested again.
Correct.
In the last 2 months. So speaking of both transitions, did this have any impact on the day-to-day rhythms between you and your bride?
Yeah. The first thing, we kind of set a standard of we sold our basement.
Okay.
So there's nowhere for you to move back in. That's the dad speaking. Then the mom said, we have an extra room. Come on.
That's fair.
And so our youngest did move in for about 9 months before she started her master's degree, her postgrad degree. It does feel like we've hit the gas, hit the brake, hit the gas, hit the brake. And so it's definitely a different rhythm in each season.
Okay.
Right. As anybody would experience, even when, at the stage of our life as empty nesters, when kids come home for Thanksgiving or for Christmas or for a holiday, all the rhythm gets thrown off. We did that to my parents, right? And you could tell when, we had stayed maybe one day too long.
Been there.
And we needed to get out because their rhythm was totally disrupted.
The following year, the Thanksgiving holiday is coincidentally scheduled 1 to 4 days shorter.
That's
than
exactly
the
right.
one.
That's exactly. And then you find what's healthy for your family at that point, right?
Yes.
And for extended family especially. And but yeah, for us, moving into January, it was a different rhythm, having to move stuff back, having to accommodate more storage, having to accommodate a rhythm of now not a teenager graduating from high school, but a young adult who has lived on her own for 4 years.
Yeah.
And finding new rhythms. And of course, in our situation, her moving to a brand new city.
Yeah.
And just so thankful for your ministry and the ministry of our young adults here and the friendships that she's made. But that was another rhythm for us when she moved back in, of not having friends here.
Yeah.
And navigating loneliness and navigating until God provided for that. And so we were having to navigate different types of emotions. We were having to navigate sleep patterns.
Yeah.
We were having to navigate. I'm usually in that room. Now I'm not going to be in that room.
Yep.
That type of thing. And so when she left to go to graduate school, we had gotten used to a 9 month. It was not to put it in pregnancy terms, but we had gotten used to being pregnant. We had been gotten used to her being in the house, and now she has been birthed out. That's really stretching the analogy into the world.
Yeah.
And we're looking around going, oh, this is different now again.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like we're constantly learning.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying to figure out, okay, what's the next thing we do? How do we relate? And not just in how we speak to one another and those things, but emotionally, what our expectations are for one another, my wife and I, for our girls, and now becoming grandparents at the beginning of 26. We're navigating those emotions and those ideas and those rhythms.
Yeah.
As we move toward that, realizing that halfway through 26, our youngest daughter's done with her graduate degree, and now what's that rhythm? So it's just a constant thing.
Gee whiz.
Yeah.
I think right now I'm just kind of struck by the fact that if you resist or hate change, you will miss all of the joys that God is bringing through
That's
your
right.
life.
That's it.
Because y'all had a big change through this year with your youngest. Y'all got another 2 sets of changes coming from both branches of your daughters coming up. If you're the type of person that kind of closes their hand and says, no, I sit in that chair on Tuesdays at 7.
That's right.
You're going to miss everything that God has for you.
Well,
this week
and
at
that's
7.
interesting because what we've been talking about as a staff recently has been the idea of change,
Mm-hmm.
and that all change equates to some type of loss, right?
Yes.
And so a child leaves the home in this scenario, and there's a loss. The
Yeah.
child comes home, and there's a loss
Yeah.
of,
But that's real.
but it's real. And so, my new phrase is: you can sit in the back row and have a pickle face
Mm-hmm.
and resist all of that, or you can find the joy in those transitions. Like
Yeah.
you said, you can find great peace and um, great fulfillment and contentment in those seasons, because almost in some way, each of those transitions ushers in a new season in your life.
Absolutely.
And it may be very short,
Mm-hmm.
it may be very long.
Yeah.
And so, where can you find contentment within the context of those transitions? And I think that's a big question.
That's a good one. I appreciate that one. And we might be jumping ahead of ourselves. I
Mhm.
might be jumping ahead of us a little bit here, but I would say that um, mourning the loss is okay
Mhm.
and healthy,
Absolutely.
but then trying to recreate or cling to
Yeah.
what was lost
Right.
prevents me from what it is that God has for me in this. If
Yeah.
when your youngest returned,
hmm
y'all fought like mad
hmm
to reclaim the rhythm of when she was in high school,
Right.
that would be both inappropriate and unnecessary frustration.
Yeah. The Greek word is sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, but for real, that's
Yeah.
that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Well, no, and it's like when I, excuse me, when I went to seminary. So I was at Baylor for 4 years. So I was not too far away, but enough far
Mhm.
away where I could live my own life and yet still cart all my dirty laundry home on a weekend and get it all washed
as needed.
and have a home cooked meal and then go back and be autonomous again. When I got to seminary in Fort Worth, and I grew up in Dallas, Fort Worth, the church I ended up serving for 2.5 years was actually like 4 miles from my parents' house.
Okay.
So when I went to serve the church, I just stayed at my parents' house. And especially during the summer when I wasn't in school, I just lived with them in my old room. Well, there had to be a conversation about a week or two in. I was 24, you know,
Yeah.
24, 25 at that point. And I was being treated like I was 16
Yeah.
to 18 because that was the last time I had been in the home on any consistent basis.
Yeah.
And I had to sit down and go, I'm not like 17 or 18 anymore, right? That I've done life on my own. And I know this is a grace that you're giving me, so I don't have to drive 45 minutes from my place in Fort Worth.
Yeah, recognition from both sides.
So
of this.
recognition from both
Yeah.
sides, honoring them.
Yes.
And hey, okay, what time are you going to be home?
Mhm.
Which I felt first offended by,
Mhm.
and then realized that both of my parents had loaded pistols next to their beds, and then I'm like, okay, now that's a good question. That's a really good question. So I'm going to be home at this time. It's me coming in.
Yeah.
You know,
we
that-
promised to check the clock before we open fire.
that's it. And so, the other side of that is just respecting them.
Yeah.
Honoring your mother and father and saying, you're giving me grace here. I'm not going to take advantage of that grace.
Yeah.
And so, with that memory in mind, thinking through my daughter coming back home for 9 months to live with us, going, okay, I need to give her space to be who she's become.
Yeah.
Not who she was.
Yeah. And hopefully she's somebody new.
And she is somebody new. You
Yeah.
can't go through 4 years of college and not be transformed in some form or fashion, for good or for bad.
Yes.
In our case, for good. She continued to grow in her faith and seeking God's will and all those kind of things. But, as she made friends here, she was able to go out and have a good time and have college student hours.
Mm-hmm.
And for 50 somethings, we don't have college student hours anymore. We're like, oh, the sun went down. See you in the morning, but to respect her
Yeah.
and to be able to realize, to ask the same questions my parents were asking me. So what time should we expect you to be in?
Yeah.
And those type of things.
That's good.
And who pays for what
Mhm.
and all those kind of things. We're going to go out to eat. How can we help you? You need to take care of this one and treat her like a young adult.
Yeah.
Not like a kid,
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we've learned.
That's good. That's good. And when we're just to broaden the scope here at probably the quarter mark, 1/3 of the way mark, probably the most frequent transition season that I hear referenced, and it's probably the nature of where I serve, is concern about the transition from high school to post high school. And there's so much data about that one
Yeah.
being an important one.
Yeah.
But I think there are other not I think, there are other transition points that we see serve as either on ramps to people going somewhere deeper in their faith,
Mhm.
or as people taking exit ramps.
Right.
We've hit on two of them. That transition to empty nesting or re-nesting, but also there's retirement, there's changes in marital status, be
Yeah.
that from not married to married or from married to unmarried, having kids, moving, new jobs, becoming a widow or a widower.
Mhm.
Um, and all of these life changing major moments
Mhm.
that are too big to ignore that
Mhm.
something is different.
Right.
Um, do you think these impact the walk of a follower of Jesus?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. And I think they impact them differently. If you can see transition coming,
Mhm.
then, the first the first venue for disciple making should be the home,
Good.
right? And so if you're a parent, you ought to be discipling your kids
Yeah.
if you're a Christ follower, obviously. But if you see graduation coming up, especially in that senior to freshman year, you're coming out of your senior year of high school, they're going off to college or military or work or whatever. You ought to be laying the runway for that.
Yeah.
It ought not just to be this hard cut on graduation day.
Yeah.
And you ought to be laying the spiritual, the emotional, the mental, the financial uh, runway for your child to be able to navigate life
Mhm.
effectively. The other thought that comes to mind immediately on that thing, on the high school to college thing, is we never stop being parents.
Yeah.
I was calling my dad up to the time where until he got sick
Mhm.
and asking his advice on stuff. And I'm in my 40s and 50s at that point.
Yeah.
And, so you never stop being a parent. You just have to learn to parent in a different way,
That's good.
And I wouldn't say, I mean, some people may push back against this. I don't know if you transition from being a parent to being a friend. I think there's an element of adult friendship that you have with your children that we're experiencing right now that is real.
Yeah.
And I love being a friend to my daughters, but I'm their dad.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to stop being their dad because they've become adults. But I have to release the hand. I've got to allow them to navigate life on their own. I've got to respect them, but I also, as their dad, need to continue to give them advice, give them counsel.
Mhm.
And the great thing for us is that they still call and ask for it.
Yeah.
And so there's a healthy relationship there. But they're calling not as a friend. They're calling, "Hey, Dad, I have a question for you."
Yeah.
You know. So I think throughout all these transitions, whatever they happen to be, even let's even go back. My baby's going to kindergarten. That's a
transition.
thing.
That's
I mean,
a transition.
you get through preschool, even if they're going to our preschool or something a couple days a week or whatever, but you drop them off in another building with other people and you walk away.
Yeah.
That's heart wrenching for a parent.
Mhm.
But I think every transition in life, first of all, I think every transition in life brings us into a new season, and seasons are not bad.
Yeah.
They're just different.
Yeah.
And it tests and it molds and it changes our walk with Christ. And I think he uses those seasons to help us. He can, and he desires to make us look more like him.
There you go.
But there is a palpable tension in each one of those.
Yeah.
And as we embrace that healthy tension, we grow as well as others who are involved in our lives as well.
That's good. I am reminded, John 15
Mm-hmm.
and the vine dresser. And yes,
Yeah.
the branches that do not bear fruit, he removes.
Right.
But there are also healthy branches that
Mhm.
are removed.
Mhm.
And anyone that's done even just like at home tree trimming,
Yeah.
right? There are the branches that have to be cut.
Yeah.
But then there are the branches that I cut because I'm trying to shape this specific
Mhm.
tree to match what is in my mind's eye
Right.
for what plays best on our property, be
Yeah.
it a shade thing that we need or just an overall aesthetic that we're going for, so that when the encore man comes through, they don't make as many changes. That's
Yes.
personal. I shouldn't have
That's
said that.
personal testimony.
But
Yeah.
that's no, I think that's real. Just the John 15. Am I fighting God
Mhm.
when he has the pruners
That's right.
and his work is for good?
And I think we're talking two men talking about this, but I think men and women deal with these transitions differently.
Mhm.
So it'd be interesting to get our ladies' take on these type of changes and seasons in life. and to be able to see how they process emotionally and mentally and spiritually through these things, because I think there is a difference, and which leads to that other thing of how do relationships continue to grow, a marriage relationship continue to grow
Hmm.
through these different transitions in life. And God may be doing a work in each of us differently
Yeah.
as we navigate the same season. And so I think openness to and it's the foundation of any healthy marriage, communication,
Yeah.
um, asking questions, being open to listen when it doesn't match up with your experience in that
Yeah.
transition and in that season, um, is critical for health in the home
Yeah.
specifically,
Yeah.
in any of that time, any of those times.
Those
So,
are good.
well,
Those are good. What when there's a major life transition and it does leave me wobbly on my
mm,
feet.
mhm,
I think of one that one of the moves that we made after we were married, Jordan did phenomenal with the
mhm.
move, and I did not. I did
Well,
not,
that's
did
because
not.
she's better than you.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I can own that easily. I definitely outkicked my coverage. But if a major transition leaves me wobbly on my feet, it leaves my faith feeling shaky. Um, is that a sign that I'm a terrible disciple? That I didn't just take this transition in stride and just kept running?
Yes. No, I'm
Okay,
just kidding.
fair.
I'm just kidding. No, because I think, I mean, you go back to any, there's a ton of biblical references of transition and seasons all the way back to Abram,
Hmm.
and then name changes that happen in your life and all these different types of things. And there are times when you look at Abraham after
Hmm.
his name's changed, he falters several times,
Yep.
you know? I
Yep.
mean, calls his wife his sister, and I mean, just some things that are going on that, man, he's struggling, and others around him don't seem to be struggling as much as he's struggling. And you can see many biblical examples through that. No, I think disequilibrium, even spiritually,
Yeah.
can seem very negative in the moment, but can actually be a positive catalyst toward growth. And sometimes I think God allows that to happen
Absolutely.
so that we depend on him and not on our ability to navigate it on our own.
That's good.
And so, you know, now I'm going to get back to your statement for a second. Yeah, if you're being disobedient to God and you're not listening,
That's a great line of demarcation.
then yeah, you're being a bad disciple.
Yeah.
But if you're doing your best to seek him, to be obedient, and you're still kind of off balance, you've got the
Hmm.
spiritual vertigo going on in your life, then it might be just that moment in the desert or in that season in your life where God is saying, trust me,
That's good.
depend on me.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's a good word. And this might be out of pocket, out of left field. Um, but as you're saying this, I would imagine I've never walked through it. I don't know how I'll respond to it
Mhm.
until I'm in it. I would imagine the final child making their high school to post high school
Mhm.
transition uh, puts a lot of parents in that spot.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, what a example and what a testimony if not only when my child comes back at Thanksgiving, I
Mhm.
see a new person,
Mhm.
but what if they find a new dad?
Yeah, that's right.
Like what if they find a dad that is more devoted to Jesus than when they left?
Yeah.
So that they don't fall into the trap that you grow with Jesus through college
Mhm.
and then you pursue the American dream and then you be a good church member.
Right.
Like we're missing lots of steps
Yeah.
in that,
Yeah.
including the one that runs for the rest of my days, which is every day running with endurance the race that he sets before
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was
No, but
not in the notes, but like it just as you're talking, it's like, man, what if they come home to a dad that's walking with Jesus differently now?
right. Right.
Like,
And so, just as you received Christ, continue to walk in him
yeah,
and rooted, established in him. I mean, the whole idea of discipleship is, like we said before, is a partnership and a process. And that's in times where the seasons are longer and
hmm,
everything seems to be settled and we have a rhythm. And it's in those times of disequilibrium that we continue to learn to walk with Christ. Wait till the hairy legged boys show up and
mm-mm,
start dating your daughters. and wait till that one takes you out to a taco place and asks you if he can marry your daughter.
Coincidence. I took mine to Starbucks. Or I took my now father-in-law to Starbucks, which he's not a Starbucks guy.
Yeah.
But to his credit, he drove in it was about a 3.5 hour drive from the deer lease.
Yeah.
The second week of deer season. And my now mother-in-law was like, Andy, you do know what week it is. I was like,
Yeah.
Julie, it's going to happen now or I'm not going to ask. Like,
Right.
this is it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he made that drive to Starbucks of all places.
So when that happens to your girls,
that won't happen.
yeah,
Coincidentally,
Yeah.
we have been looking at property in Montana.
yeah, John. Okay, see you, buddy.
It's fully off the
but-
grid.
That's
so
right.
We're going to be
But when
fine.
they come and ask you about your girls, and you realize that at the wedding, you're handing off the spiritual leadership of the home to another young man.
we don't need me to
I'm
cry. on this
messing you up,
episode.
man. I'm messing you
This
up.
is real.
And you become a father-in-law
Mm-hmm.
to them, where you still, hopefully, in healthy relationships, you still have a voice into the life of their marriage.
Yeah.
But realize, and maybe one thing that can comfort you is you say, now I give you my daughter, and I give you the spiritual, my permission to be the spiritual leader of your home, because that's what God's called you to be. And I also give you all her debt.
Yeah.
So that kind of softens things at the end. I'm
There's
not
always
paying for anything
There's
anymore.
always that joke at the
Yeah.
end. There's always that joke at the end. It is interesting. Man, we're off the rails, but that's fine. I'll bring it back soon. This Sunday in our core group, in the core group for the college ministry, the passage that we were in, it was speaking on marriage. So we go back to what Jesus said on marriage and some of what Paul said. And I did say, like, hopefully the hardest part about getting married for you is that you do leave.
Right. Yeah.
There has to be a stark change. There has to be a death to the old relationship so that a new life in the new relationship that you have with your family of origin can begin to grow and take place and find its footing and be what God has for it.
Well, that's what Genesis 2 talks about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave your father and mother.
Man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one. And so there is a death and a resurrection
Absolutely.
of relationship in that season of transition in your life. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a tremendous picture of the gospel.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So we'll get back to it. So if I'm in this transition of change and getting settled into a new season, what might be some starting places and practices if that's where I find myself right now?
Yeah, I think starting, at least what we've done is just, okay, God, what do you want us to do from here?
Okay.
And I think that can be in anywhere. It can be even, we've walked through that transition with my mom in the death of my dad, and so if you're a widow or a widower, that's a huge transition of rhythm in your life.
Yeah.
And let me go back and kind of set a foundation if I can for a
Please.
second. Okay. So
Please.
one thing we need to remember in our walk with Christ is that we never retire from our walk with Christ,
Amen.
that we're always called to be about kingdom work. We're always called to be disciples and disciple makers. Just because there's been a transition in your life, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever, physically, even with physical ability, that doesn't mean that you retire from your Christianity. It doesn't mean that you say, okay, God's done with me. I love what Craig Rochelle says. He says, if you're not dead, you're not done.
Yep.
And the whole idea behind that is God may have brought this season in your life to free you up or to lead you, and I don't want to minimize the death of a spouse or or a parent or whatever, or even a child, but God may be leading you into a new season of fruitfulness for his kingdom's sake that you couldn't do beforehand.
Yeah.
Right.
That's real.
And so even in the death of my dad and my mom now having some medical issues and being in assisted living, she has not only a new rhythm, but a new context in which to live the rest of her life for Jesus. And she even told me a couple of weeks ago, she said, maybe God's called me here, not for me, but for them.
What a perspective.
And that's a great perspective. That's something that, and one thing that I had to remind her is you need to continue to remind yourself of that.
Man, I would be so self-centered in that season.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
only focused on my personal loss.
Yeah.
But to be Christ-centered and outward looking, that's kudos to your mom, sir.
But it's a process. That's not every conversation.
Yeah.
There are other conversations where it's more negative and more, I'm missing what I was and what I had and who I had.
Fair. Which is
but
allowed.
which is allowed because that's part of grieving, isn't it?
Yeah.
But to continually reinforce the perspective of this is where God has me now.
Good.
And what does he want me to do now? I'll never forget being the church in Georgia that I came from. We were doing a service day in the community, right? So we did it on a Sunday, like Labor Day weekend, when the crowds were going to be lower. So we did a shorter service. Everybody came in shorts, which freaked out some people. And we gave them T-shirts, and then we sent them out to serve the community after service that morning. And we had a guy, he was in his 90s, and sweet dude. He came in his Cadillac of walkers, and had everything on it, except for an engine. I kept telling him you need an engine on that thing, go faster. But he came in, and he was dressed for church as a 90-year-old. He had his slacks and he had his button down.
Yeah.
He had a tie on. He didn't have a jacket because it was Labor Day.
Yeah.
But he had his tie on, and he came to church that day and he said, well, I can't go cut down a fence row. I can't go and do gardening work at the high school. I can't go blah, 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 blah. But he put a T-shirt on over his dress shirt and his tie.
Yes.
Which is a look. I'm just saying.
No, but
He turned his walker around in the lobby, sat down because it was a Cadillac, had a seat on it, sat down, and he helped register everybody who came in to go out and serve.
Let's go.
And I'm just like, if you're not dead, you're not done.
Absolutely.
So he couldn't do what most of our people could do, but he could do what he could do.
Yeah.
And instead of being selfish and saying, well, this isn't for me, he said, God, how can I serve the body?
Open hands.
Open hands. And people just came by. You know how many hugs and loves he got that morning?
Absolutely.
So not only was he blessing others, he got blessed as well. And that's a memory that I have of someone who has had many different seasons in his life, and now is a season of senior adult singleness and finding purpose in the middle of that. And I think that's extremely important.
That's a big one. That's a big one. So what I'm hearing from you, because that started with a God, what do you want? And there's an openness in our prayer and a surrender, asking to recognize things. Any other practices that you would throw out there of, hey man, and this tends to be something that we see be helpful in navigating a transition?
I think, going back to John 15, the idea of abiding is huge. I think the idea of abiding is the idea of surrendering, the idea of constantly being surrendered to Christ, Christ's call on my life.
Yeah.
I think the other side of that too, though, is very important, and maybe sometimes we miss that, is to be open to receive the ministry of others in those transition times.
Okay.
Because we're, Western evangelical, what's the right word? I can do everything on my own type thing.
Self-supporting
system, self-sustained.
Self-centered.
From a selfish standpoint, yeah. But the idea that we've been taught that you need to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone else needs to put your boots on.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to allow someone to bless you.
Yeah.
The negative opposite of that is becoming codependent on other people.
Yeah.
And not taking responsibility for your own life, your own walk with Christ, your own call, all of those things. But there are times where we need to let people serve us. And sometimes during those transitions of seasons in our lives, we just did a funeral for a young man who was a high school student at our church, and his parents and his sister are going to have to navigate a new reality without him in their lives anymore. And they need to have open hands to receive from others.
Yeah.
Because if not, you get extremely myopic, you get very, very internally focused. And that can lead to a lot of negative things, bitterness, shame, all of those things, incredible loneliness, even depression and some mental health issues. And so when we learn to receive the encouragement of others, then it empowers us. And this is biblical. Hebrews 3, encourage one another while it is still called today.
Yeah.
So the idea of receiving that encouragement so that we can continue to surrender ourselves with open hands to do what God's called us to do.
That's
So
good.
it's a both and thing.
I like that. I do often, it could be that God's changed the chessboard up enough so that I'm in the position to have to receive that.
Yeah.
And do I trust God enough
Yeah.
to let others be the hands and feet that minister into my life?
Yeah. When the well's dry and you're scooping up dirt,
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
That's a time that you need someone to pour into you.
No, it's okay. I'm fine. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
want to be.
fine.
I don't
I'm
want to be a
fine.
burden.
I don't want to be a burden.
I
No.
feel like there's an entire generation that effectively has that tattooed across their
Yeah.
arm as a sleeve.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a burden.
When really they're saying, no, I really want to be prideful
Fair.
and not receive from those who are willing to serve me. And I've said it many times. When you're not open to receive the ministry of others, you're hindering their ministry.
That's good.
And again, it's not the hand out, it's the hand up. It's the I need someone right now.
Mhm.
Even going back to thinking about Moses at Ai, I believe, and the guy's holding his arms up.
You're talking about the
You know.
geographic location AI. My mind
Yeah.
immediately went
Artificial
to
intelligence.
artificial intelligence.
No.
I was like, "Sir, Moses
The
ain't on
battle of-
ChatGPT."
The battle of AI in the Old
Yes.
Testament, and
Yes.
Moses not being able to hold his
Yes.
hands up by himself.
Yeah.
And he needed those guys to hold his hands up, because as
Yeah.
long as he had held his hands up, the Israelites were winning. When his
Yeah.
hands dropped, they started losing. And we need those people to come alongside us, and we need to be humble enough and recognize that in some cases it's not about us, it's about the context we're in,
Mhm.
and it's about something bigger than we are, the kingdom of God, and how God wants to use others in our lives for even a grander purpose beyond us.
Absolutely.
And so if we're not open to that, and I told my seminary class this recently. I said, you don't know it all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you know it all, then you're Jesus, and you're not Jesus. So you need the input of others. You need the support of others. You need to help empower others, but be empowered by them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
that's
love
so
that.
important.
Thank you. I'm reminded of a handful of people in our church that I would say are navigating new seasons in a
Mhm.
way that I hope to one day.
Yep.
Not because outside in I see success or anything like
Right.
that, but outside in I see a humble, open posture before God.
Mhm.
I think of the adults from the Legacy Core Group
Mhm.
that honestly, our mission trips the last 3 years don't happen without them.
Right.
But some of them are retired. Some of them have more flexibility with their job scheduling now.
Mhm.
That and not only are they helping serve on our mission trip in a way that's different than they were before,
Mhm.
what God has used that moment, the way that God has used that moving forward of, and now there's kind of a group of students that have a relationship with these adults that they
Mhm.
didn't beforehand. And we actually had 3 of them come to our college worship service last week.
That's awesome.
And 2 of them being a part of the prayer team that prays beforehand.
Yeah.
Seeing those things, man, I'm trying to store these things in my heart
Yeah.
of there's going to be different seasons.
Yeah.
And God's got a purpose for those seasons.
Well, and you never know what God might do in a situation like that. Like
Yeah.
you may have a kitchen team that's cooking the food for them, but that's not all those ladies did.
No.
They became a mom to some of those kids.
Yeah.
On that trip, I think of some of our guys who were doing the construction stuff. They weren't just teaching them how to lay flooring.
Yeah.
They were pouring into lives, and relationships were established through that,
Mhm.
which brought incredible. I mean, one of our core values is intergenerational relationships, right?
Absolutely.
And so the idea not only brought value to the life of the student, brought incredible value to the life of that senior
Mhm.
adult.
Absolutely.
And we see both of them be encouraged as an end result.
Absolutely. There's a few other examples even beyond the ministry I get to serve in of, and you see parents who kind of serve, and I think this is pretty common.
Mhm.
We serve in the ministries that our kids are in.
Yeah.
Right. That's a natural thing. Those are not. It's not just like I want to be by my kid at all times.
Mhm.
It's also I want to become a resource for my child's peers.
Right.
And by the way, I want you to be a resource for
Mhm.
my child's peers.
Mhm.
And develop those people of trust that we know will continuously point our kids to Jesus. But when those children transition out of high school,
Mhm.
and you've really got a couple of options. You can look at it and be like, "Man, my time's done, I guess."
Mhm.
Well, your life is maybe halfway over.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Like I don't know
Yeah.
that the second half is
Yeah.
meant to be spent in the stands.
Yeah.
I think as some of our men that as their kids moved off, they opened their hands, they prayed, and now they serve our preschool ministry on Wednesday nights. Which, if you've not had a chance to
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
see Larry Beard leading
That's right.
3-year-old kids and singing songs
Saw
about
it last
Jesus.
Wednesday. Yeah,
I mean, that'll change your perspective
that's
on
right.
things.
That's right.
And I just think those are great examples.
Well, and I think some people don't do that because they're afraid of where God may lead them.
Oh man, we
Right?
asked a group of students this week to say out loud, what are the prayers you're afraid to ask Jesus
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah.
That's
And I think that's not just a young person thing. That's a every person thing of if I do open my hands, if I do surrender my heart, if I do seek the Lord in this time of transition, he may lead me into a place that's uncomfortable.
yeah.
Let me help answer
Promise.
that. That'll happen.
Yeah.
And watch what he does when he does.
Absolutely, man. Aren't we lucky that he would take us
Praise
out of
God.
comfort?
Yeah.
Lucky's the wrong word, but
Right.
you know what I mean.
Yeah. But blessed. Let's use
Yeah,
something
blessed.
that sounds more
Let me be
Christian.
a minister.
Yeah. How blessed we are because it's in those times of healthy tension. It's in those times of being stretched
Mm-hmm.
because we all run to the kingdom of comfort.
Yep.
But it's in those times that we're being stretched and God is saying, I want you to go do this,
That's good.
that you may be the answer to somebody's prayer.
Mm-hmm.
You may be the answer to a hole in the body of Christ that has not been filled because God has been preparing you for that.
That's good.
And yeah, you may not do it right the first time
Yeah.
or the fourth time, but you'll grow into it as you grow,
Absolutely.
you know? And so, you know, like we said, nobody likes change unless it's their idea. But what if God put you in a position you never thought you were going to be in?
Yeah.
And then used you for his kingdom.
Absolutely.
That changes everything.
It does. It does. It's he will change the chessboard
Yeah. That's it.
so that you can see what you would not have seen otherwise.
That's right. That's right.
That's good. I feel like I could go on with examples from our congregation.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll save that time. No, hold on. No, I want to encourage one another as it is today. I think of the Wortmans,
Yeah.
whose 3 boys have moved off and gone on.
Mm-hmm.
They continued to serve in the ministry that they were in, specifically a core group, and felt God saying, I want to change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is one that I think is a true open hand moment with God of, all right, they'd already experienced the
Mhm.
outside in change,
Mhm.
your children moving. This is God saying, I want you to initiate the change.
Yeah.
And for a couple of months, from what I have gathered, there's seasons of prayer and testing.
Mm-hmm.
Romans 12:1
Mm-hmm.
and 12:2.
Right.
And just some inquiries of, is there an area of service available here? Is there something God might want here? And then we were the college ministry was the beneficiaries of this, and that they end up becoming teachers in our core group out of it. But just watching them navigate that and getting little snippets alongside them, it's like, okay, this is a model.
Mm-hmm.
This is faithful fellowship of Jesus, that me, a season behind them
Right.
as a man, as a
Right.
young man, and my wife, but also our students, a couple of seasons behind them
Yeah.
can see like, hey, when God prompts a change, they loved where they were serving before.
Yeah.
But it turns out they love Jesus more.
Yeah.
And letting him make those changes.
Well, and maybe
There's-
as a final example are those who have agreed to be on a launch team for our Spring Creek campus.
absolutely.
You
Give
know-
God your campus.
Huh?
Give God your campus.
Yeah, absolutely. And to see some people who said, I feel like God's calling me. And I see a young couple going down there
Mm-hmm.
that have grown up in this church and now are
Yeah.
going, we'll go down there. And I see a senior adult who goes down there, a lady who's a widow, and she's going down there and she's starting to meet people that go to the North Main campus,
Mm-hmm.
but she had never met them because they weren't in her pathway on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And now, because she's stepped out of her place of comfort to go and be a missionary, if you will,
Yeah.
she's actually meeting people that she had not met previously
Oh yeah.
and is having an impact on that campus already.
That's incredible.
And that's a calling. That's saying, okay, God, what do you want me to do?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, sir, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us on this. Thank you for listening to the Every Gym podcast, and we'll see you next time.